Hey, what's going on, guys? We're live again with another video. And today is going to be a different video because today I'm going to be reviewing Arsenal's All or Nothing documentary with Amazon, episodes 1 to 8. My thoughts of the documentary and some parts that highlighted and really kind of put me into a different perspective with some of these players, and especially the manager, giving a different stance, giving a different perspective, and also giving an insight into what actually happens during the transfer window, what happened behind the scenes in some of the games, and also the changing room zoomed in, team talks, as well as some of the player one-on-one discussions, player improvements with Nuno Tavares adjusting to the Premier League, as well as some of these players' families speaking out about how they reacted after a game and how much they support this team and how much it means to them to play for the Gunners and to play for the badge. So before I go into review Arsenal or Nothing, do like the stream if you haven't already. If you're watching on a different platform, do make sure to hop on over to my YouTube channel. Before you subscribe, check out my previous videos. I do FPL and Arsenal content. I'm a regular guest on FPL Casuals, where we do FPL analytics as well as FPL game week and team selection reviews. We also talk all things transfer news there. With that being said, today's video is just going to be a recap of some of the glimpses I saw of the All or Nothing documentary. It was a really emotional documentary for me, and I quite enjoyed it. I'm someone who really likes filming, directing, and the stuff that goes into making a documentary. I like to see that, and I like to see how it came together in the Arsenal All or Nothing documentary. I was a bit reserved at first when Amazon announced that they're going to be working on Arsenal next. I thought it was just going to be a PR stunt for the club. I'm not going to disregard the fact that it is PR. However, it was really insightful and did give some authenticity into these players and what actually went wrong and what happened last season. Before we get into the video, let me go ahead and run back that intro real quick. So we started off the documentary with an insight into the season, how we're going to progress, and how preseason went off. We had a poor start to the season with having players like Klaas and Socrates still in our team. And the other thing I want to say is, we had players who didn't really care for the badge. And starting off the season with 0 wins, all the pundits were on our case. And Gary Neville, of course. Constantly through the documentary to the first 3 episodes, where the amount of pressure that was on Arteta to get this team ticking and to get these players, fully fit and, level-headed into each game. We couldn't survive the first month. We had no goals for goal of the month, and we really struggled to click in at the start of the Premier League season. COVID affected us. COVID affected the manager itself, and it took us a while to fully mesh as a team. Some of these players were not good enough. Some of these players got injured in preseason, and some even played throughout injuries, as you saw with Kieran Tierney in episode 8. Moving forward into the rest of the documentary, the first 3 episodes, you saw a glimpse of the first start of the season and how much pressure was on Arteta to perform because of how much we spent the summer, and also because he's a novice manager, only winning an FA Cup. The fans felt this wasn't good enough. Of course, our ambition and our hope was to get to top 4. But with having no European football whatsoever that season, our aim was to get back into Europe at any cost. And, now we're in a whole different season. We are in European football. We're, of course, not in the Champions League yet. But my objective this season, before I go into further in the documentary, my objective this season is to get an FA Cup and to get into the top 4. Personally, I feel that if the manager does not achieve top 4 this season, I feel he'll walk. And the foundations are already laid off in a better place with Zinchenko, Gabriel Jesus, and other signings, the reinforcements that we needed and we didn't have last season, especially that January transfer window, not signing any reinforcements, did cost us ultimately that top 4 spot. And we did collapse. We had the youngest team in the Premier League, keep in mind, and now they are 1 season of experience older, and they'll carry that experience, the good and the bad and the ugly times we've had. The Newcastle defeat, the Brighton defeat, Crystal Palace away from home, Brentford defeat at the start of the season was humiliating. And we go on into the new season, all fresh, two wins in two, and we're taking it one game at a time, hopefully to maintain consistency. We still have some key areas to address in a left center mid and a left winger, and a right winger, and hopefully we can adjust that this at near the end of the transfer window. I do see one or two signings still coming in for this club. Now, later on into the documentary, we saw how much pressure these players had. We saw the passion, the aggression that someone like Ramsdale had. That Aston Villa game away from home, we won the game, but when the camera zoomed in on Ramsdale, you would have thought we lost the game because close to the 90th minute in additional time, we actually conceded a goal and we lost the clean sheet. And Ramsdale was so pissed off, so frustrated with himself. It almost felt like he was taking it out on himself. And throughout the first 3 episodes, we saw a glimpse of Ramsdale's family, how supportive they are of him. And he spoke about him coming from Sheffield and how different the atmosphere was. To play for a big six team like Arsenal was a dream for someone. And for him to have his family supporting him every game, him waving to his family before we kicked off, it really felt so wholesome. And someone like me who played semi-pro football years ago, to have your family support, it means a lot. And later on, Saka in the documentary does mention that, footballers only make it professional 1 in 100, and that speaks volumes. And Ramsdale, throughout this documentary, he expressed, that he still wanted to improve. He still wanted to prove himself to be number one keeper, to get that shirt off of Leno, and still will continue to work hard for this team and play for the badge and prove what it means to play for the Arsenal and what it means to be a gunner. And to see a glimpse of his family, to see a glimpse of Granit Xhaka's family, as well as the manager's family itself, we saw a different perspective that a lot of us don't consider when we think of the price tag of these players, when we think of, they have to perform. Some of us want that instant gratification with these players, especially someone like Ben White. The 50 million English tax. Oh, he's supposed to perform right away. He needs at least 10 goals a season, GA. And, the amount of pressure they have week in and week out, as well as, their lives outside of football. We saw a glimpse of that through this documentary, and that's what I enjoyed the most. I like the authenticity it had, and I like the voiceover from the fans. Through the good and bad, the fans sharing their experience, and it really felt genuine. It felt like match-going fans. It felt like the stuff that I would say on my streams, win, lose, or draw. I'm always here talking about the Arsenal, talking about my views of the club, and that's what the commentary, even when we lost the first 3 games of the season, Arteta going into the match, the coach bus, and you would hear the commentators behind him, the media pressers talking, saying, oh, you're a novice, you're not good enough, you have to go, you have to walk. And there was this debate earlier on last season, out of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Frank Lampard at Chelsea and Mikel Arteta, who would be the first one to walk. And out of all those 3, Arteta was the one who stayed on the job. He won the FA Cup, and we're still working towards a goal, but I am seeing progress, and I'm seeing a different side of this team this season so far, and even last season with some of these players, especially like Granit Xhaka and Eddie Nketiah, stepping up for us when we needed us and being true leaders on and off the pitch. And when we go into episodes 4, 5, and 6, the North London derby at home, when we go into the games where we played Chelsea, Eddie Nketiah talks about, when he was young, he was at the Chelsea Academy, and being that young, Chelsea Academy let him go because he wasn't good enough. And he talks about how daunting it is on someone's self-confidence, how hard it was for him to, bounce back from that and give it his all for Arsenal. What he was on the bench for most of the first half of the season. And when, we didn't have Aubameyang anymore, Eddie Nketiah was called to step up. And he did take on that challenge. He worked hard in training behind the scenes. He worked hard personally on his own with a professional trainer and proved himself, goal scoring, not as a coincidence. It was more than one occasion, and he stepped up when we needed him. When everyone else was falling on deaf ears in terms of strikers who we had up front, Lacazette wasn't offering anything, and Aubameyang had left. not signing any reinforcements in January, you saw the amount of pressure that goes behind the transfer scene. It's not like FIFA where you're just pressing X and then transferring players in. You have to read a contract, you have to agree personal terms. And we saw that through Edu in when we got to the January transfer window. Just the glimpses of signing Tomiyasu on deadline day. You saw like how, it looked fast on the documentary, but it was a lot of work behind the scenes. And Tomiyasu is the type of player very, very good on aerial duels and a brilliant signing that I'm sure this club had spotted. And, to snuff a player up like that, it takes a lot of work. And, you saw in this documentary itself, Edu and Arteta would either sleep very late, wake up very early, for team meetings, for analyses of the players, of how we performed in the last game. And you saw the amount of pressure that goes behind a manager. And now, before I get into the Aubameyang situation, I do want to say throughout this documentary, what I appreciated and valued the most was the man management skills and discipline skills from Arteta. Although he's a novice manager and he had no managerial experience prior to, it takes a very bold person and a very courageous person to step up and tell your team, your players that you're not above me, and I will put you in checks and balances, and that no one is above the goals of this team and the objective of this team. And the other thing I will say is throughout those defeats in the first 3 games of the season, the Newcastle defeat, the Brighton humiliating defeat, the Crystal Palace defeat, and the Tottenham absolutely woeful and abysmal performance away from home near the end of the season, Arteta took accountability for everything and constantly stood behind these players, win, lose, or draw. Players like Nuno Tavares really, really struggled to adjust to the Premier League. When he came to London, he explained himself that he felt out of balance with the culture. He felt like he was homesick and he missed home. And it reminded me a lot of Lucas Torreira. And unfortunately, it did not work out for Torreira at Arsenal. I wish him all the best at Galatasaray. And I hope he continues to continue his football career and put his best foot forward and best efforts. And when we saw, players personally working with a coach, working with a manager, or personally working with their own coach, behind the scenes, we saw glimpses of that through Eddie Nketiah, through Nuno Tavares. Arteta signaled there was something wrong with, him adjusting to the culture, adjusting to the environment. And he helped work on that one-on-one with the player. And that means a lot, especially in terms of developing a player that's so young, adjusting to the Premier League. It's not as easy as the Farmers League. The Premier League is a very tough league, and it takes a while for some players to adjust. And to have that support from a manager, from the coaches, from the assistant coaches, it means a lot. And that's what we need to see more of in the Premier League from other clubs as well. But it was nice to see that from the Arsenal. And another thing I want to mention in the first 3 episodes, actually around the first 6 episodes, the team talk from Stuart McFarlane, the club photographer, the amount of passion us fans, whether you work for the club or whether whether you're just a match going fan, whether you watch it Arsenal home and away, we saw the true passion of this team. We saw the passion and the 12th man voice of the fans, and the amount of passion this team had to still play for us through the 90th minute, not give up a fight against Man City at home, even though we lost the game, at Liverpool at home. Even though we struggled in that game, we still put up a good fight. Leicester, we had a really good performance there. And, to continue week in and week out, to just keep going. Arteta saying, right off that Tottenham away game, focus on Newcastle, and we still just couldn't mesh well together. We had injuries with Thomas Partey going out injured. And Kieran Tierney, bloody hell, the Scottish dude ended up playing through injury, and no one knew about it. And then he ends up getting injured coming out of the shower. So typical of Arsenal to do that. The club is almost like it's cursed. But it was really, really like he's so selfless. And I know last season when the Euros finished, he had left the Euros too early, like the break that the players are given after the Euros are done to rest and have a nice summer, because they don't really get a full summer. And Kieran Tierney left his holiday early to come back to Arsenal for preseason training. And that itself speaks volumes on how selfless he is. He is someone who has a work rate of 150%, not 100%, 150% all the time. even for Scotland. And although he can become injury prone, he is a very good left back and someone that we can truly rely on. He's someone who plays for the badge and proves it week in and week out. And that was really sad to see that he was playing through injury because, this is what happens when you have young players. Sometimes they're naive and, playing through an injury, your injury can get worse. But he didn't want to give up and we really needed him in the game. So I do understand his selflessness and his reasoning for that. But it was interesting to see that. And then going on into the Aubameyang situation, criticism I do have to say, and I know some of you guys might agree with this, it would have been nice to see Aubameyang's perspective because it does take two to tango, and there's always two sides to a story. So it would have been great to hear Aubameyang's side of the story. Yes, there were a lot of disciplinary actions with Aubameyang throughout the years, and yes, he did contribute a lot for the Arsenal in the 18-19 season and onwards. I'll never forget that, and I'm very grateful for Aubameyang signing for this club, signing the contract extension. But one thing I want to say is the constant disciplinary actions as club captain, coming late to training, not attending training at all, and just it felt like he didn't care anymore, or it felt like he didn't want to be here anymore. I don't know what it was, but Arteta actually had a dossier, a file created of the amount of disciplinary actions him and he had with Aubameyang. And it was more than one occasion. And constantly this documentary highlighted that the club did everything to keep this a professional manner and handle it professionally. And I know for a fact certain other managers in the Premier League, certain other clubs in the Premier League would have handled this very differently. It would have been very big in the PR. And the amount of pressure that was on from the PR, from the media, on you've dropped your club captain, it takes a lot of guts to do that. And he did that more than once. And I condemn and respect Arteta for that. Having the guts to step up when all the pressure is on you. We haven't won games. We haven't been consistent. We have injuries. We have COVID. And, it was unavoidable for all teams, COVID and injuries. And last season, the amount of pressure on us when we were very close to top four was in our hands. And to let it slip away, it still made me feel like, looking back at it now, that I've calmed down, that I've went through the preseason, that I've rewatched the games of last season, and this All or Nothing documentary gave me a lot more respect for certain players. Players like Granit Xhaka is someone I slated a lot in the past. And I'll be honest, he's someone who stepped up for this team when we needed him. He's a leader on and off the pitch. Whether you like him or not is a different story, and I respect people's different of opinion. This is just my opinion and my review. So when he was sharing his experiences with the club, with the team, when we win, it's all high and it's all a bed of roses. But when we lost games, he took it home with him. And, it felt like his wife was saying that he doesn't sleep. He's constantly thinking of how to improve his game and how to give 100% for the Arsenal. And you felt that he was a true leader. And the stuff that happened in the past with certain fans abusing his family, disrespecting him, and whatnot, I felt that and I could understand that. But it was nice to see people like Ramsdale, people like Eddie Nketiah, and people like Granit Xhaka truly speak up about their love for this club and truly speak up about them wanting to play for the badge and them wanting to prove themselves. Even there was a glimpse in this documentary of Mohamed El Neni. Mohamed El Neni was fasting during Ramadan and still playing for Arsenal. I don't even think he made the club aware that he was fasting for Ramadan, and he still was playing very, very well that Ramadan time when we had a lot of fixtures condensed together that were tough fixtures. We had to play boys against men, and he still gave it his best effort. And those type of things I really liked watching. In regards to the Aubameyang situation, what I found most appealing was the way Arteta, Edu, and Vinay and Richard Garlick handled the situation behind the scenes. And it wasn't taken overly to the extent or overly exaggerated by, the media, because Arteta's words and what the club's true intentions were could have been twisted and taken out of context for sure. But as I said earlier, it would have been nice to hear or see Aubameyang's perspective and his side of the story. So that's my only critique. The other critique I have is after every match, almost after every match, there were fans speaking about the performance, whether it was good enough or not, whether these players deserve to play for the club or not. And as an international fan myself, it would have been great to have more international fan representation. I felt like Arsenal could have asked fans to send clips in from across the globe just to see more representation from fans outside of London. We're just as special and we're just as equal as you guys, and we're just as supportive of this club as you guys who are in England and privileged enough to go to games week in and week out. So that's something I felt like the club could have done, or Amazon could have arranged with Arsenal, but it was still a good documentary overall. I enjoyed the drone footage as well, and the zooming in the dressing room with special moments. There was a moment with Ben White when he was talking about the 50 million price tag, and he was talking about how football fans nowadays, expect instant gratification and a player to, bang goals right away. And Ben White, although he's not one of our greatest defenders like Saliba, I really hope he continues to improve and continues to do well with the squad, along with players like Gabriel. We saw when they got the red cards holding Gabriel, Granit Xhaka, we saw how frustrated they were. And, and at times they were blaming the officials, just like us fans when we're watching the game, when we're doing watch-alongs, we blame people like Anthony Taylor, people like Paul Tierney, because at times it comes across as not fair. And at times it's like you're putting your passion, your 110% on the pitch, and you end up being a bit too irrational. When you're in that game, when you're in that mindset with the mentality to win, you're so eager, so hungry. Sometimes it gets the best of you, and to turn that around and the next game to start on a clean slate, it really spoke volume, and it really gave me a lot more respect for some of these players, a lot of these players, and this team as together as a squad, and the manager. When we lost games, the amount of pressure that was on Arteta, the way he did those team talks, even when he had COVID, he still conducted the team talk. His drawings and his emphasis on energy, light, and radiance. He kept highlighting that throughout this documentary. And if you guys noticed, the reason he did that was he was not only thankful for the Arsenal job, but it was more so he was thankful these players trusted him and put their faith and respect in him. And respect is something Arteta is very big on. And that's something I condemn him for and I admired in this documentary. The other thing I want to say was the unity between these players. There was bust-ups in episodes 7 and 8 with Lacazette and Cedric. I know there was only 1 or 2 bust-ups that were shown in the dressing room, but I do know for a fact there was a lot more that was just not shown. And we know that happens in every team dressing room. It happens. But to see this team work together in unity, to see players encourage other players to step up, like Albert Sambi Lakonga, Nuno Tavares when he was hooked from the Nottingham Forest game, still giving his best and still, not giving up. And Arteta supporting these players even when they were not performing well at all. There was the Newcastle game where Bruno Guimaraes was running around strings around our players, and Arteta still backing these players, still telling them to give their best in training. And we did see some episodes of training, in this documentary where these players are putting their best effort in training to transpire and to hope it transpires well on the pitch. There were some games where we didn't have a game plan at all. Arteta had a game plan to execute, and it just didn't go our way. The opponents were much bigger than us, much better than us, and much more solid than us. And we saw how the season fell apart of our hands when top 4 was so close for us, but yet so far away, so to speak. With that being said, this was my review of the All or Nothing documentary. Personally, I really enjoyed it. I felt it was authentic. I know this was a PR thing for Amazon, but I did feel like it gave us a lot more respect for these players, for the manager, and really showed how much pressure they go under. Not just the manager, the players, but also Edu, Vinay, and Josh Kroenke. Sorry. And the other thing I do want to say with the Aubameyang situation, although he left to Barcelona and we could have tried to work with him further, I really think the club did everything they could before deciding to take the offer from Barcelona. I really feel that Arsenal did everything they could to support Aubameyang and to try to make it work. But unfortunately, it was meant to be, and it was just time to move on. I have all respect for Aubameyang still. I really appreciate what he's done for the Arsenal. So if he was to end up at Chelsea and play for Chelsea, yes, it's going to be frustrating and it's going to be upsetting. But I'm not going to say I hate the player. Hate is a very strong word. And I'm more someone who's very positive, very optimistic. And I'm very proud of these players. Even the players that are not good enough to be in this squad that have left, players like Hector Bellerin who have yet to leave, players like Ainsley Maitland-Niles, players like Lucas Torreira, they have yet to leave. And, We didn't see Saliba in this documentary because he was in loan at Marseille. So I'm excited to see him this season. I'm very excited for the season to come. Seeing that documentary after last season, after everything cooled down with us not getting top four, us getting knocked out early of both domestic trophy possibilities, it really gave me a new perspective on this club and a lot more optimism into this new season with the reinforcements that we've signed and with the positions that we have yet to address. Hopefully before deadline day, we get those signed, sealed, and delivered. With that being said, I want to wish this club massive, massive, massive support, and I will continue to back the boys through thick and thin, week in and week out, home and away, and I hope all of you Gunners do as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this documentary as much as you, and I hope you guys liked my review. Do let me know your thoughts of the documentary. What was your favorite moment? What stood out to you the most? And what's your takeaways from this Arsenal All or Nothing documentary? All right, guys, I'll see you guys next week on Sunday, most likely, for the Bournemouth versus Arsenal match reaction. Hopefully, another 3 points on the board, fingers crossed, and hopefully we perform really well. We play fluid football that I love to see, and we continue to be a threat to Premier League defenders. Now, I know it's Bournemouth, but we have some tough games coming up with Manchester United soon. With the situation that Manchester United are in, I understand. However, we don't have a good record at Old Trafford. So I am looking forward to the rest of the season and the tough games to come this season. I'm a bit more confident. And that's all I have for you guys today. Come on, you Gunners, up the Arsenal, and thanks so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy my Arsenal analyses on the All or Nothing documentary, and if you guys do enjoy my match reactions, my FPL content, do make sure to hit a like on this video, check out my previous videos, and also check out my collaborations. I have a playlist called FPL and Football Guest Appearances. I do update it regularly, and weekly I do feature on FPL Casuals. So do check them out as well. They do great Fantasy Premier League content. Check me out on Twitter. My Twitter is MissMelina7. If you have any questions related to FPL or the Arsenal, I'm always glad to help you out. And last but not least, have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone. Take care. And come on, you Gunners. Adios, everyone. Bye.